Hello, my name is Brandon Sills, and this is an audio blog concept I'm just on a whim trying out. This one is dated for October 8th, 2021. By now, I think there's going to be a new influx of people that have discovered the channel primarily because of ASIO Link Pro. And honestly, that's a good thing. There's still people that are coming in and discovering the videos, and it means a lot to me that I'm able to help these people that have a lot of musical work that they want to share with people, or something that they want to live jam through a platform like Discord. And it really does mean a lot to me that I've been able to help so many people so far. So for that, I thank you, those that hear this, those that have viewed those videos, being able to submit your comments on those videos over the time and be able to at least provide some feedback that it worked for you, or having some form of critiques and whatnot, that it just shows that stuff like that's important, especially now more than ever during the pandemic when everything started going batshit crazy for all of us. So I don't know if I can say thank you enough for those that have actually viewed the content or whatever, but if I haven't said it now, then, thank you legitimately from the bottom of my heart about that. Speaking on the topic of ASIO Link Pro, there is definitely something that I do want to bring to the table here, and that is something that I came to a conclusion with about 2 to 3 weeks ago, roughly, in terms of FL Studio, Pro Tools, and Cakewalk Sonar. And I've come to the conclusion that as many times as I attempt to make ASIO Link Pro work in the FL Studio environment, it is definitely a very rough patch for me to figure out why I'm having device driver buffer overruns, whatever they come up as an error. I don't know if it's due to VST3 deal or if it's just the platform itself trying to work on this loopback between DAW and software, whether or not if it's Discord or if it's OBS or Streamlabs or whatever. So FL Studio is going to be out of the run. I do have some projects in FL Studio history dating as far back as 2002-ish that I need to go through at some point and port out if it's worth doing so, and eventually it's going to be an uninstall for me at that point, unless if I still find something viable in it for my own personal workflow. I'm not saying that FL Studio is a bad DAW by any means, so don't get my words twisted on that one. If it works for you in terms of electronic or metal music, if the workflow and the plugins that are provided are stable enough to help you provide an idea of your own and be able to present a music project that sounds like and fits your narrative, then by all means continue to use it. And that's what every single DAW is about, that ability to work on writing everything that you want to write, or develop a demo with a group of people and see what sticks to the wall and what doesn't. Pro Tools is a little bit more of a beast in which you can set it up. It's a little bit trickier, and it does work at least, but it does take quite a bit of time to guarantee setup in order to get your signal from the DAW out into Discord or Streamlabs or OBS or whatever. I don't feel like I have the patience to go through every single step, make the notes, and try to reproduce it for video. So I'm also gonna have to leave that one out, on top of going through all of the project history that I have in it dating back to roughly 2009 or 2010. The last one is Cakewalk Sonar, which also allows me access to projects dating as far back as 1998 or 1999 during the Cakewalk Pro Audio 9 days, when I started getting introduced to electronic music and programming and whatnot during high school. The setup for that process is much more convoluted to me, in that once you enable the driver, you have to disable and enable multiple inputs and outputs to achieve what it is that you want to do for routing from it. And the latest edition of Sonar, to me, even though it's free, which is a good thing, it gets a lot of people into recording music, the one thing that I enjoyed about Sonar the most was around the era of Cakewalk Sonar Producer Edition 4 and 6. And that was because I had the ability to make guitar and bass guitar tabs in a project without doing it in a platform like Guitar Pro. Now, Guitar Pro is still a good piece of software to write some stuff out and learn what it is that other people have tabbed out for other songs and other bands and whatnot. And I do not wish to discredit the software whatsoever. But once the ability to do this in a seamless manner in the latest edition of Sonar, once that disappeared, my interest waned. And that was also in part due to Gibson purchasing the Cakewalk brand and then kind of leaving it in the dust, if you will, allowing it to die until BandLab picked it up and gave it the proper revival. So there is at least, all of that information for you to understand where I'm coming from with that. And I hope you do understand. So there's that. And speaking on other things, at least, the summer definitely was more quiet than I wanted it to be, but there were at least a couple of reasons there. The first one being we had a heat wave where we reached 116 degrees Fahrenheit, and I don't know exactly what that translates to in Celsius, if it's like 47 or 48. It's like my math on that's not that great. My only math I know is music related for the most part. So it was a fascinating summer, at least. My aircon barely kept up those 3 days. And once that was over with, I tried my best to limit my usage of electricity just to try to save on the bill. And once in a while, if I was able to do something work related because my brain was in that spot, I would totally pick up the guitar, the bass, or my Roland and try to go to town on a couple of things. But the summer's been more or less uneventful, with maybe live streaming a couple of computer games here and there, and that's been about it. But now that the fall time is here and the weather has gotten much cooler, I think the work is going to wind up picking up a hell of a lot more. So if you start noticing a lot more uploads, or at least more frequently, then you know that my brain it went from whatever neutral gear it was stuck into that process of you got to do something. And there's a lot that I want to do again, but it's all about being able to find a way to personally motivate yourself and realize that the only obstacles that are in your path are created by yourself. And that's kind of a hard thing to do when you've been dealing with more than 20 years of depression and is still working on coming to terms with figuring out how to deal with like PTSD and autism and all that kind of stuff. It's been a fascinating ride, but it's not the one thing that's going to defeat me in the end. I mean, I'll defeat myself in the end, but those things that basically become a part of my life are the only things that are just part of the makeup of my personality, or who I am and who I want to be and all that kind of stuff. So the only thing that really, again, is there to defeat myself is myself. And it's a work in progress, we'll at least put it that way. There's many ideas that I want to do for this channel, including, attempting some instrumental versions on like cover songs and all that kind of stuff, in the midst of working on fixing some of my other hardware, which I have all the parts for. I just need to put the time into it. There's studio recordings I need to do across town at another studio, and I'll figure out the distribution method for those. There's plenty of short demos, full-length demos, and finished song ideas here that I want to get to at some point and actually start cranking all of my time into those and get them done, get them out, whether or not if it was part of my history or if it's something that's brand new. There's so much content that I have musically that goes as far back as even 1998, when I was like 14 or 15 and I was just in high school, starting to get an understanding of what musicians basically do and like how they go about doing it, teaching myself how to program MIDI and all that kind of stuff. And that was, it was a great time back then, because it was, you're a teenager, you have all of this imagination in your head, but you don't have all the tools necessary at your fingertips to be able to do what it is that you really want to do. You have to build even more and more. And all of that drove me to be the reason why I wanted to learn guitar, I wanted to learn bass, I wanted to learn a little bit more about piano and synthesizers, drum programming, all that kind of stuff. I wanted to learn how to write songs with a structure and kind of be more or less like the industrial rock and nu metal of the 90s and early 2000s, figure out how to deal with like pop song structures and all that kind of stuff, and then maybe take it to an extreme or whatever. And so far, for the journey of like 23 years now or so that I've been doing music, I still have a lot more to learn, and that's, just being humble about the idea. Like, I don't know everything and I don't have all the answers, but it's been a fascinating journey, and I don't plan on quitting it anytime soon as far as I'm aware of. I may have had a bit of a burnout a couple of times over the last few years. It just kind of comes with the territory when you're either mentally or physically exhausted and trying to deal with things like going to therapy to get better and have answers to some of your own problems that nobody else is going to have but yourself, and making sense of things that need to be made sense of, if that even makes any sense. I don't know. It has been a fascinating time, at least, rambling some of this stuff into a microphone that's sitting close enough to my face where maybe the noise gate will clamp down on some of the breath, or maybe it'll take out a lot of the sibilants for like end syllables or whatever. But I wanted to at least make this as a concept of trying something out, something completely different. I don't have to sit there and stare at a camera and feel awkward about having to look into the lens or whatever, but this is something that I've been thinking about doing for quite some time, and here I am committing to it as a means of telling myself, commit to something and start committing to the remainder of your workflow. You have a mission in life of your own, and it'll benefit other people and not just yourself. So think about other people, help them out wherever you can, etc., etc. And that's basically where my brain's been at for I don't know how many years now, and finally it feels like this is a more appropriate way to put it down. And there's a lot more to be said down the line, whether or not if it's on a more personal level or if it's on a creative level or whatever. There will definitely be more of these to come if the interest of it is there. If it's not, whatever. If it needs to be something a little bit shorter, if it needs to be something a little bit longer, whatever it takes, right? So if this is something that I'm giving a shot at trying out, then maybe you'll have the feedback to dictate whether or not this continues, and if it does it in a shorter time frame, if it goes even longer than however long this is when it's uploaded, whatever it really is. So if you've made it this far at this point, then I would definitely say thank you for your time. I know that your time is more valuable than my own, and I don't wish to waste it on dumb stuff, if you will, but I wanted to at least do this as a means to kind of come a little bit more closer to personal with you, because a lot of things that I am doing are not only personal to me, but they're also something that gives me a chance to reflect on a lot of stuff that has brought me to this point in life. And I want to make sure that sharing some of that also means something to you, whether or not if you're a hobbyist or if you intend to go as a professional in the music industry or whatever, if you prefer to be an independent and build your career without the need of record labels or whatever. I just hope that some of this stuff down the line, whatever happens in the future, as far as audio blogs are concerned, or whatever other content that I do upload, that it at least means something to you and is not exactly wasting your time. So this whole entire idea is in your hands as well. And if you've made it this far, again, thank you. And if you enjoy any of the content that I've uploaded on my channel, it doesn't hurt to put a subscribe down. It doesn't hurt to have the notification bell on or whatever, but it would mean a lot to me, especially if the content means something to you. I want to be able to continue doing this and grow more, doing what it is that I want to do and doing what I am doing currently, and be able to give back to you something, So I'll stop rambling now. In the meantime, I have some wake up to do, as it is almost 5 p.m. I am still brain dead tired, and we will see what the future holds.